Classical conditioning is a way of learning where a stimulus that triggers a biological response is paired with a new stimulus that then result in the same reaction. The most famous work is Classical Conditioning, was done by Pavlo in the 1890s. During this time, Pavlo did a lot of research around the digestive process of dog. One day, during his research, Pavlo noticed that the dog began to salivate in the presence of the technician who normally fed them. He wondered if the technician was triggered that stimulated a response associated with food. To find out, he constructed an experiment that would allow him to measure a dog's output of saliva. First, he served the dog food. Then, he served food while playing the sound of metronome and repeated the process a few times. Finally, he removed the food and only played the metronome. The dog began to salivate in response to the metronome alone. Pavlo concluded that if a new stimulus was present when the dog was given food, then that stimulus became associated with food, an unconditioned stimulus, because its effect on the dog were not learned. Instead, that triggered an unconditioned response that happened naturally and completely out of a dog's control. The metronome is at first a neutral stimulus. Through the process of repetitive pairing with food, the dog learns to connect the two. This means that the neutral stimulus becomes the conditioned stimulus, and the response to that, a conditioned response. He also reported that learning occurred more rapidly when the interval between the sound and the appearance of the food was short. The saliva produced by the sound differed in composition from that produced by the food, which means that the conditioned response was not an exact replica of unconditioned response. While there are several forms of conditioning, such as forward and backward conditioning, classical conditioning cannot create new behavior or be used for training, but instead triggers involuntary biological responses. We can almost entirely undo the conditioning. This happens through extinction when we repeatedly present the conditioned stimulus. When a dog sees the food, the signal from the eyes and nose stimulates the brain, which activates the salivation gland to secrete saliva. To aid the dog's digestion, when a dog hears a sound, the ears send a signal to the brain, which take note but has no reason to activate anything. When the two different neurological processes are being activated simultaneously, new synaptic connections occur between the auditory stimulus and the behavioral response over time. These synapses are strengthened so that it can only take the sound to activate the pathway leading to salivation. Next, let us discuss the educational implications. First, learning through association. Pavlov's theory shows that students learn by associating new information with something they already know. Teachers can use this technique to help students connect new concepts to their prior knowledge. Second, reinforcement and motivation. Positive reinforcement, such as rewards or praise, can motivate students to learn and repeat desired behavior. This is based on the principle of classical conditioning, where a stimulus reward is associated with the response desired behavior. Third, habit formation. Pavlov's theory explains how habits are formed through repetition and association. Teachers can help students develop good study habits by creating a consistent and positive learning environment. Fourth, emotional learning. Classical conditioning can also influence emotional responses to learning. Teachers can create a positive emotional association with learning by using enjoyable and engaging teaching methods. Fifth, Behavior management. Understanding classical conditioning can help teachers manage student behavior by identifying and addressing underlying associations and triggers. Teachers can develop effective strategies to promote positive behavior. Next, let us see the teaching strategies. First, positive reinforcement. Use reward, praise, or incentive to encourage desired behavior. Second, association techniques. Help students connect new information to their prior knowledge or experiences. Third, repetition and practice. Provide opportunities for students to repeat and practice new skills or knowledge. Fourth, emotional connection. Create a positive emotional association with learning by using enjoyable and engageable teaching methods. Fifth, consistency and routine. Establish a consistent and predictable learning environment to help students feel secure and develop good habits. By applying the principles of classical conditioning theory, educator can create a more effective and engaging learning environment that promote positive behavior, motivation,